Saturday, January 9th, 2016. Derek Davis here with Rob Vino, sportsbettingtoday.us and Rob Vino Sports. Rob, two playoff games today in the NFL. Let's take a look here first at game 101, 102. Kansas City Chiefs at the Houston Texans, 4:35 p.m. Eastern start in this one. Game currently sits at Kansas City Chiefs -3 and a total of 39.5. Game opened at the Chiefs -3, but with a total of 40.5. Weather in this one, Rob, looks to be mid-50s. Wind could be a factor, 5 to 20 in this one from the southwest. But overall, pretty nice conditions in Reliant Stadium where the roof will be open. Just cloudy with, like I said, mid-50s as far as the temperature. Injury-wise for the Chiefs, of course, they've been without Jamal Charles for some time now. For the Texans, they are down to their third and fourth string quarterbacks. Brian Hoyer is probable today. If not, his backup Brandon Wheaton will get the start. So, well-known injuries there at quarterback for the Texans. Definitely a handicap for them in this one. The Texans today will rely on their defense, which has played very well the last three games. Of course, Rob, they did struggle somewhat against New England and Buffalo there in mid-December. But other than that, past 6-7 games, Rob, defense has been playing pretty well for the Texans. They'll obviously rely on them a lot today. The Texans started out with one of the worst records in football. At one point they were 1-4. One point they were 2-5. But then they were able to turn around, Rob, and other than those two losses to New England and Buffalo, won the rest of them. Against the number, they've been really good as well. Since mid-October, 8-3 against the number, Rob, for the Houston Texans. And the Kansas City Chiefs were really no different this year, Rob. Started out pretty lousy. At one point were 1-4 as well. Excuse me, at one point they were 1-5 as well, straight up, Rob. And then they also got hot there in mid-October after beating the Steelers. Really went on a tear after that Steelers game, the Chiefs did, and have rattled off 10 wins in a row. Coming to this one with a lot of momentum, of course. But although the last four games they were only 1-3 against the number, of course, those teams were against some of the bottom feeders. You wonder about motivation there late in the long season with the Chiefs in those games. But here's the playoffs. Don't worry about motivation at all for this game. But, Rob, this is a tough one to call. That number seems pretty close to me. Both of them do, the total and the number on the game. If this game was in Kansas City, I would expect that number to be somewhere around Chiefs -6. But here it sits in Houston. Rob, for me, this is too tough a game to call.
Kansas City Houston might be the most difficult handicap of all four of these playoff games here this weekend, Derek. They played once earlier this year, go all the way back to week one, and it kind of sets up, for me at least, as the same exact type of game in that particular contest. I can remember heading into the season, I was interested in playing on both of these sides. However, since they were playing each other, couldn't really come up with a selection in that game. But what doomed Houston in that contest were turnovers early. KC made some big plays. First quarter, they were off to a huge lead. Houston wound up changing quarterbacks in the second half of that game. Brian Hoyer was ineffective. I think Ryan Mallett came in. Houston closed the gap late. You get your 27-20 final. But as I mentioned, it was too late. Kansas City had the big lead, built on the turnovers and big plays. You go through the statistical stuff in that game, and you see neither team could run the football. Just wasn't possible for either side. Neither team could convert on third down. 3 of 13 for Kansas City, 3 of 14 for Houston. Neither team could run the football for KC. 32 carries, 97 yards. Houston totaled 98 yards in that game. Of course, they had to somewhat abandon the running game because they were down so big so quickly. It's interesting because both of these teams are built almost identically. So when you try to separate them and look for advantages, it's difficult. I know that a lot's been made of both defenses playing extremely well down the stretch, and they have. Kansas City's defense has been the anchor because the offense hasn't come through that much as of late. Houston's defense has obviously been the anchor. Houston's schedule, playing the AFC South, the last 3 games of the season. Obviously, a weak schedule, but Kansas City's schedule wasn't the strongest schedule either. So both of these teams similar in so many ways. I look at it this way: Alex Smith does have a slight advantage over Brian Hoyer as far as quarterback play is concerned because he's able to use his legs to make plays. With the Houston pass rush being what it is, that's going to be critical today for KC. Alex Smith, there's going to be plays where the rush gets in. He's going to have to be able to use his legs, and he's done it very, very well, especially the back half of this season. His running skills have created plays for KC and kept drives alive. That's big today for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think what's also big today for the Kansas City Chiefs is to try and establish some type of running game. It's going to be very hard, but when you have to lean on the passing game, and really Kansas City's a two-weapon team, Jeremy Maclin and Travis Kelce. I think Houston, which played poor pass defense to start the season, they were attacked in their secondary quite a bit first half of this year, but they've straightened that out. I think that they can take care of the two main passing weapons for KC. So today, Kansas City needs to run it a little bit. Alex Smith needs to improvise and make some plays on his own because there's no doubt that J.J. Watt and company are going to get in and cause him some trouble. Defensively, Kansas City's going to welcome back Justin Houston, and that's huge for KC. Not so sure about Tamba Hali right now, but they also welcome back D Ford, which means their pass rush should be ready to roar against this Houston Texans offensive line, which is minus their star left tackle, Dwayne Brown. Therein lies one of the biggest advantages of this game. KC's getting pass rushers back. Houston's missing their top left tackle. That could cause trouble for Brian Hoyer, who's not as adept at getting out of the way of a pass rush as Alex Smith is. For Houston, you want to try and get DeAndre Hopkins some explosive plays because this looks like a game where neither team is going to be able to grind out drives 70, 75, 80 yards. It looks like a game where you have to have big plays in order to succeed here on the scoreboard, whether the big plays are made by the defense or the offense. DeAndre Hopkins, Jeremy Maclin, the two guys that can get over the top and make those home run style catches and scores or set their teams up for scores. For Houston, running back Alfred Blue's been a big plus for them lately. Running into KC, again, no easy task. I think in the end, when we look at this game being bet down a little bit this morning, Kansas City was laying 3 with huge VIGs throughout the week. Most books would not come off of the number 3 and move to 3.5. What they did instead was go minus 15, minus 20, minus 25, minus 30 in some spots. Right now we're seeing 3 solid all the way across the board, almost universally now. So the 110 VIG back in play here, which means Houston money has come in. The total sits at 40. We're seeing some movement towards 40 under as far as VIG is concerned. 3 is a difficult number because this looks like a field goal game. I think in the end, for me, I trust Andy Reid's ability as an offensive mind to make one more play than maybe the Houston Texans, Bill O'Brien, and their staff can make, again, from an offensive standpoint. If I had to, think I would try KC, but 3 is just a very difficult number to play in this game. And the 40 is difficult as well. First game hit 47 because of the turnovers and big plays for Kansas City early. There's no saying that won't happen again. But realistically, if you're just going off paper, under 40 might be the right side. Very difficult game to handicap once again. I wouldn't be surprised if either side wins this contest because it's that close, and wouldn't really be surprised if this game, squeaked over the total at 41. If you get a 21-20 style game or a 24-17 style game. But I think I would lean more towards the under in kind of a 20-17 type of game. So not much here to recommend. Should be a real good game. Numbers are in a good place. Bookmakers have done a good job with this game, and obviously the bettors haven't been able to budge the numbers one way or the other all week long.